House Speaker Mike Johnson and several members of the House Freedom Caucus are expected at the White House this afternoon to meet with President Trump to discuss his budget bill. Some key conservatives remain opposed to portions of the package as the Trump administration pushes for a final vote this week. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now. Nikole, what is the House Freedom Caucus asking for? And did lawmakers come to a compromise on that state and local tax deduction cap, otherwise known as SALT?
Well, in terms of the House Freedom Caucus, they did brief reporters earlier today saying that they have accepted a proposal from the White House. They wouldn't go into a lot of detail about that, but alluded to the fact that it likely includes some changes with respect to some of the concerns they had about Medicaid along the lines of waste, fraud, and abuse, which is what the president said yesterday were his key targets in terms of the bill, as opposed to touching benefits, strictly to deal with the waste, fraud, and abuse components of it. And they also said that this deals with some of the concerns they had around energy. You know, some of these members had been pushing for complete repeal of provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act and rolling back a number of clean energy subsidies that had been implemented under the Biden administration. So again, unclear if full repeal is in effect. You know, aides I talked to earlier in the week said they were still in conversations about how far they might go with respect to that. But those certainly were the chief concerns of the Freedom Caucus. As for SALT 2, it appears that the speaker has neared a deal with members of that group. Of course, we're talking about the state and local tax deduction. There had been a push on the part of some of these members from New York and California to raise the cap on deductions from $10,000. The current proposal on the table was $30,000. This potential deal could be a higher cap than that. Again, conservatives not so eager to embrace that, but in terms of these lawmakers who are very concerned about SALT, it seems to be going over relatively well with those members. But again, we haven't seen any finalized legislative text, so that's kind of what we're waiting on as the speaker tries to move forward with this package.
And a new report from the Congressional Budget Office says the tax provisions in the bill would increase the federal deficit by $3.8 trillion over the next decade. What else did the report say?
Yeah, it also found that Medicaid cuts would be roughly in the neighborhood of almost $700 billion, $698 billion less federal subsidies from changes to Medicaid, also $267 billion less in federal spending for SNAP benefits, although those are potential cuts that we had been reporting on for some time as both the Energy and Commerce Committee and the Agriculture Committee kind of worked through those elements. Again, you know, how you characterize cuts is really subject to debate here on Capitol Hill. Republicans still continue to argue, again, that they're just targeting waste, fraud, and abuse, that, you know, by implementing things like work requirements, they're just trying to strengthen the program, sustain it for the future. But certainly Democrats see these cuts as significant that could hurt millions of Americans.
Okay, thank you for that context, Nikole Killion.